This is Indie Business Podcast, Season 3, Episode 7, Makers on Main Street. Hello and welcome to this episode of the Indie Business Podcast. I am your host, mentor, and coach, Donna Maria, the founder and CEO at indiebusinessnetwork.com. My goal is to help makers and handmade entrepreneurs build a solid business foundation, increase your income, and use your business to create the life you love. On this episode, I will introduce you to Kristin Fraser of the Grapeseed Company in Santa Barbara, California. Kristin calls herself a born entrepreneur, and with good reason. She was born into a family of business owners, and she started her first business, a swim school, when she was 14 years old. As an adult, she always knew she wanted to own a business. She just wasn't sure what her business would be. But one day, all that changed when she was hanging out in Santa Barbara's wine country and noticed that the wineries were discarding grapeseed extracts, a byproduct of the winemaking process, for trash. She began to wonder if they could be used for skincare. And right after she wondered that, well, you know what happened next. And today, Kristin leads the Grapeseed Company's online retail sales, wholesale sales, and retail store. Kristin's story highlights the twists and turns of entrepreneurship and how you can try something and have it not work and then fiddle with it here and there until it does work. Or you can try something and have it not work and then drop it completely. It's your gig, it's your choice. And I just find so much freedom in that. And so does Kristin. You'll enjoy hearing from her. You can get a summary for this week's episode at indiebusinessnetwork.com/31. I'll be right back with Kristin Fraser of the Grapeseed Company in Santa Barbara, California. I am so excited to welcome Kristin Fraser from the Grapeseed Company to Indie Business Podcast. Welcome, Kristin.
Hi, Donna Maria. Thanks for having me on. I'm really excited to talk with you today.
Well, I'm excited to have you for so many reasons, and I have to say that one of them is because I get to pretend like I'm actually in Santa Barbara, California for 30 minutes. So tell us a little bit about how you started your business and, where you've come from. It's such an exciting and interesting story.
Sure. Well, we're going to in June be celebrating our 11th year in business, which is just crazy to think that it's been that long because it seems like it's flown by. But I moved to Santa Barbara 13 years ago now, after spending 2 years living on a sailboat sailing from Boston to the Caribbean. And I learned how to make products during that time because we couldn't get to regular stores, and knew I wanted to start a business, but it hadn't all really jived what that was going to be. So we ended up moving to Santa Barbara at the end, towards the end of the summer. And that's when harvest season starts through the fall for grapes, for making wine. And we have a great wine growing industry here all the way up through Northern California that we actually source seeds from. So we saw these piles of grape seeds that were just being left for trash after the vintners crushed grapes every harvest season. And I started doing some research on grape seeds and found out that they're great, really rich in antioxidants, great for skincare, and thought I can start a whole skincare line on this. So I was teaching at the time and, working a full-time day job as a teacher. And then started making a few products and selling them at the Arts and Craft Beach Show every Sunday. Picked up a few wholesale accounts, and that's how the business began.
Now, Kristin, something you said is really interesting. You said that you knew you wanted to have a business, but you weren't sure what it would be. Tell us a little bit about that mindset that knows you want to be an entrepreneur even before you actually have a business idea.
Yeah, so I'm what I call a born entrepreneur. I actually started my first company when I was 14 years old. And it was a swim school. It started as I was raised Catholic and had to do a confirmation project. So I taught a little girl who had Down syndrome how to swim. And I came from a really strong competitive swimming family. I actually swam on a scholarship at Syracuse University. So I have a really strong background in swimming and come from a family that actually had a 25-yard pool in our backyard because my parents decided to build that when they had 3 kids that had no place to train one summer. So I ended up loving teaching swimming, and said to my parents, hey, next summer I want to do this for like lots of kids. So we just went and put flyers up around town. My dad's an attorney, and he, made sure it was legally sound for us as far as using a home pool and all that, and having our clients sign waivers. He was on top of that. And with the help of my parents, I started a swim school at 14 years old. Ran that business with my family. My mom and my sister went and got certified as swim instructors too, for 10 years. And that's actually how I afforded in my early 20s to take off 2 years and just sail to the Caribbean. I had made some money from that business. I had just finished my master's degree and thought, hey, this is better time than any to take advantage of the lifestyle I've built. So yeah, it was interesting because I kind of went from the two extremes. I went from totally like, your first work experience being starting. And then I went into the public school system, which is just full of rules. So that didn't jive with me. And I knew that kind of right away. I was like, there's really no way for me to grow and develop the way I want to if I stay in this type of work environment. So that's where like wanting to be an entrepreneur again and going back into starting my own business, that's where that came from. And I knew that in grad school when I was doing my master's in special education. I knew that then, that I was just like, oh, there's too many rules that I'm not going to be able to change, and I'm not going to be compensated for if I do an excellent job, because teachers are on a pay scale that doesn't really allow for that like other jobs do. So
that's great. And what's interesting too is that you started with a business of your own at such a young age. But you also started as a teacher, which is ultimately what you became. You became a teacher. Definitely. But then also, when you realized that wasn't what you wanted, you could hearken back to the days as a very young girl of being an entrepreneur. So there's a little, a great story there, and a great reminder of the benefits of training your children about entrepreneurship at a young age, so that they do see that they have that option when they get into a work situation that turns out not to be ideal for them.
Definitely. I mean, my parents, when I look at now, were like extremely, extremely supportive, just of everything. If we had a passion for it, they were supportive. I'm one of 4 kids. I'm the third of 4 kids. And yeah, I mean, I said I wanted to do it, and they were like, okay, let's make it happen.
And that, so even though your parents may not have been entrepreneurs, they had that mindset as well, that when their child expressed an interest in doing something creative on her own, they, rallied behind you, even built a pool for you and your siblings. Awesome.
That was a few years before I came up with the swim school idea. But,
okay, well, I'm sure it probably encouraged you that you had a place to teach swimming. You didn't have to go rent one or drive somewhere. So that's wonderful. So you discovered the benefits of grape seeds. You learned how to make the products that obviously, repurpose this valuable natural resource. And so you found yourself at this market selling these products, and then you were working a full-time job, and then you knew you wanted to leave. So, I mean, did you organize that? Did you plan that? What was your plan? And tell us, in terms of time chunks, how it worked out.
So for 3 years, I was very lucky that Goleta Union School District, which is the next town over from Santa Barbara, worked with me, and they really valued me and my talents, and said, "Hey, we want you as much as we can get you." So they let me work part-time. The first year I was 80%, then I went down to 60%, then I went down to 50%. And the reason I had to do that is because Santa Barbara is so freaking expensive. It's a really expensive place to live. And I couldn't just jump all in right away because I needed to have some sort of steady paycheck.
Right.
So, it was just a lot of perseverance and time dedication. I do not work well at night. I'm a total morning person. I think it comes from being a competitive swimmer and having all those years of having to get in the pool at 5 a.m. But my brain just works better in the morning. And I had to train myself for like a year and a half to actually be able to do stuff at night, which was really a challenge for me, because I'd have to, work on Grapeseed when I got home from teaching all day. So, I just, each year I cut back a little bit. And then I finally got a private label deal that was, I think it was somewhere between $30,000 to $35,000, all said and done. And that, for some reason, gave me the confidence in 2008 to leave my day job.
That was a handy chunk of confidence there.
Yeah, I mean, that's not that much money. We had actually just managed to buy one of the first foreclosure homes in Santa Barbara. So we had just bought our first home at that time. And, it was like a lot of risk that I was all of a sudden confident to take. But I felt like, all right, if, my wholesale business is doing well, and if someone wants to now pay me to start doing private label work on this level, I can start marketing in that way too. And so I found a way actually to, with my accountant, to finance, we bought a 3-bedroom home, and to finance 2 of the bedrooms as Grapeseed, renting them out. And for the first year, that was how we made the mortgage work. So there was a lot of creative financing with the business that actually made me able to become a homeowner in Santa Barbara. And that's another thing too. That's a really challenging thing. Like a lot of people that live here are not homeowners because it's so hard to get into the market here. But just being able to leverage the business in that way and use my home as both, we were using it both as production and office and shipping at that time. That's
right. It's, your story is so interesting, and we're going to talk about your decision to open a store, which is so exciting. But what's interesting too is that we've known each other for a long time, and I'm just looking right now to see it, the indiebusinessnetwork.com blog. We did a story on you in 2008 about your taking your business full time and leaving your job. So we want to make sure we let everybody know that they can get that there, and really kind of go back several years and see even more about how you did that. But bring us forward a little bit to once you started getting your requests for private label and wholesale. At some point a store came into the picture.
So the store came into the picture really shortly after that. I mean, I was so all in with Grapeseed at that time, from like 2008 to 2010. I just worked on it nonstop, nights, weekends. I loved it. That was like, it didn't feel like work because we were growing so much, and I was seeing, like, wow, I can really support myself just on this business. So we hired our first employee who worked out of my home in 2009. And also had picked up quite a few more larger wholesale accounts, bigger spa accounts, and private label accounts. And all of a sudden, like the space that we had in the house was just nowhere near enough. So my brother's company, which is a pretty large tech company in Santa Barbara, a great startup success story as well, they had just moved into a new facility where they had an extra kitchen, office, and conference room that wasn't used very often. And so my brother's actually the VP there, and very good friends with the founder, and the founder gave me that space for free for 6 months.
Oh my goodness.
Which I still, like, every time I see him, just go up and give him a big hug.
Well, and what a confirmation that must have been for you at the time, because still, in your home, first employee, still, working 24/7, I'm sure. Yes. To be able to have that happen, it's like, that's not an accident. Yeah. It's a sign.
So that was amazing, but it was only 6 months. They were growing really fast too at that time. And he came to me one day and said, "Kristin, I need you out, in 30 days. And I was like, okay, what am I going to do next?
Right.
I go out on a walk in the neighborhood. And this was right in downtown Santa Barbara that we were. And I see this space. And I called the number in the window.
And the next thing you know, I'm signing a lease, right?
Exactly. And within 15 days, we had a lease signed. We were starting to do all the construction on it, pretty much most of it ourselves. We had the floors refinished by a professional, but all the shelving, all the decor, everything like that. My ex-husband and I did completely on our own. So we built our production kitchen and retail store and office in that space,
and this was all done having absolutely no retail experience, right?
No retail experience, except that I love to shop.
Okay. Okay. Good. Okay. So you get your retail therapy
I
on.
loved my play
Great.
store when I was little.
Yes.
But no retail experience.
Uh-huh.
I have never taken any investment money. I've done this all on. I initially put about 2,500 into Grapeseed of my own seed money to start. And that was all I had left over after the sailing trip, basically from my earnings from my first business.
Right.
So I basically put all my eggs in one basket, put what I had left of like extra money I could, and I built Seed on that. We've never done a friends and family round of funding. We've never done anything, any loans or anything like that. So I had enough in the bank at that point that, with sitting down, looking at making more of a business plan in that area, not a real formal business plan, but really looking at our P&L and can we afford to do this, and can we afford the monthly rent, because we weren't paying any rent, we were getting that space for free. So This was really taking on quite a bit. We made it work, and Santa Barbara is a wonderful vacation destination, and that is also really something that helped us out. We definitely had our local following customers that were super psyched, like, oh, you have a retail store we can come into every day. Because literally sometimes I'd be leaving orders on my front porch for people to pick up before that, because they wouldn't want to pay for shipping in Santa Barbara if they were local. And I got that because I wasn't doing the beach show anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and these orders were being placed at the time, they would be placed online, right?
Yes. So we built the website pretty early. We developed an online presence by 2005, we had our first website completely up.
And I love this because it's so exciting to see so many people start with the internet, which is what everyone thought would eliminate our need for having a physical presence in the first place. But we're using the internet, well, not everyone, but certainly there was enough, people talking about, we're never going to have communities anymore. We're all going to be online. And what's happening, especially with makers and handmade entrepreneurs and people like you, is that you're taking that online presence and recreating it in a physical space. And so then you have that leverage one against the other, and then you have more eggs in more baskets.
That is so huge. I mean, the whole maker movement right now is just awesome. But I think what people love most is that they can see, like, oh my gosh, you're doing everything from sourcing the grape seeds in our local wine country to processing them in your warehouse. And we use the sun, so we have them in our back parking lot, like for weeks at a time when they're in the drying process and stuff. They love the fact that they can come to the store to pick up their face cream and like see this all in action, that they can see what we're doing with the wine waste, that we're making the product on site. We have a labeling room on site. Our staff is all both retail and production. When I hire people, I say, you need to be flexible because this is the type of work environment we have. And what we've created, like, both our customers love coming in and our staff loves being here. I actually had, colleges are getting out, and we have quite a few university students that we employ. And I had someone who came to me yesterday and she goes, just whenever after school's out that you can get me in here, I want to come because I just like being here. She's like, I need the money too, but I really like being here.
Oh, how wonderful is that? You're still teaching, Kristin. You're still teaching.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome to be surrounded by that too. To be like, if you think of so many people are not happy in their work environment, and that you're creating, when you open a retail store, you obviously need more employees because you're tied to the clock. But you can create a work environment that's inspiring to your employees and that you actually want to be in, so that it doesn't feel like work. So that's another really empowering part about that whole experience. And also having that face-to-face interaction with the customer. It's awesome online, you get reviews, whatever. But like seeing someone come in and say, my skin has changed. This stuff is like skin crack. Like, I'm telling all my friends about it. that's how we have grown. It's been viral marketing from our customer base and from social media. We put very little into advertising. We tend to get a lot of press because we're doing a really unique thing, taking wine waste and turning it into skincare products. And we actually are the only company that does it ourselves. Every other company that does anything like this, they're having someone else do it.
Right, right.
So, we are making it, and that's a huge part of what I've struggled with growing as well, because as we've started to deal with bigger retailers like Whole Foods and the TJ Maxx group and things like that, like when we do our larger production runs, we're doing 8 to 20,000 units at a time. And like still doing that in the maker fashion is tough stuff. So.
Yes, I can imagine, but I
Right.
think about the young lady who wants to work with you and how much she's learning just being around you and seeing you create a business and run it from soup to nuts as you're describing. But there isn't anything else like that. And I would imagine that that is a reward in and of itself.
Definitely. And it's also a core in our branding. And that's what I go back to whenever I'm like getting business advice, whether it's from coaches or stuff like that. They're like, oh, well, outsource that,
No.
outsource that. No, you don't understand. This is the core of what we are and who we are and why our customer base loves us and is so loyal. So we can't do that. That's not an option for us. We're going to find a way to make this work and take on the right wholesale partners and private label partners so that we can continue to do this.
Yes. I love that approach.
So,
and
yeah.
it's decisive. Other people may disagree from a business perspective, but
Definitely.
you have created something and you know exactly what it is. You know exactly what your customers like and what they don't like and what attracts them and what gets them to tell their friends. And you're smart enough to know, well, I better get up tomorrow morning and do that again because that's what works. So in terms of your retail store, do you sell products other than your own there, or is it just your brand?
We sell a few of our private label products. We do some private label products with some of the wineries where we actually have their branding on the soap, or it's co-branded with both the
nice.
Grapeseed Company and Buttonwood Winery. So certain private labels that we have that agreement with, we sell in the store. And then also, I know like our whole thing is we are a natural anti-aging line. There are certain products that people want that don't fit in with that branding, like deodorant. Like I know we're never going to make deodorant because you don't anti-age your armpits. It's not what people are doing. So yes, I have sourced 2 other brands that I bring in. We carry a natural deodorant here called Organic Essences. That's awesome. It's like the only thing that actually works that I've tried that's a natural deodorant as far as sweat as well as odor. And then we also brought in a mineral makeup line as well, because a lot of our customer base said, hey, we're doing all these great skincare things and we've totally cleaned and green care line, but like we want the same for makeup. And I knew we were going to never make mineral makeup. So again, went out and sourced a mineral makeup line. And we now actually, one of our production manager used to be a Clinique Macy's girl. And so we offer a makeover service as well. And she just loves like having that as a little side thing that she does in addition to being the production manager here now. So we actually do makeup services and she'll like have you in for a little mini makeover where she can recommend a whole line for you, and which is good for a lot of people that like the natural skincare because they want to look clean and polished, but they don't want a ton of makeup and they don't want something that's going to take a ton of time. So she's awesome at working with people to help figure out what the best products are. So.
It sounds like such a fun destination location. Kristin, what sorts of advice and strategies would you share with our listeners who are interested in opening a retail store in their area where they also do the making and the production at the same location?
I think that's a necessity. If you're a maker, you need to be doing both in that location. Like just opening a little mall cart or something like that, I don't think is going to get you, if you're going for that type of branding and following, it's not going to get you the same following as having your production and everything in the same facility. Number one, location. We moved from a very busy drive-by first location to right across from the mall off of State Street, which is the main street in Santa Barbara where all the shops are. And the amount we do daily in sales is at least it's got to be on average somewhere about 60 to 75% higher than what we were doing in the first location. I haven't actually run it for 2015. We moved in the middle of 2000. We moved at the end of 2013, so I have the numbers of 2014. But location is huge. You and unfortunately, you're usually paying more for a better location. But negotiating a lease that's going to work for you if you do grow and get out of something. I actually moved within the same management company, so I wasn't quite out of my other lease, but was able to get out of it by getting my neighbor next door to take over my space for the remainder of the spot, and then getting into this new spot under the same terms with the management company. So once you actually negotiate leases, which is a whole, God, that could be like 10 podcasts. It's
Exactly.
But once you actually do it, it's really important to build that relationship, because that relationship is leverage, and that also becomes your space becomes a value for your business too. Like if you have a really good lease that's 5 to 10 years and it's at a fixed rate, or it can't go beyond a certain percentage. That can be enormous for both your business growth and if you ever want to sell the business as well, because a lot of people, even if the business could be not doing so well and failing, other businesses want to get in for the space. So when you're going into retail, you have to think about, like, it's a whole nother business in and of itself. I definitely recommend, and a lot of people can't do this right away, and I couldn't do it the first 6 months, but getting some sort of manager or assistant manager, because retail, you are tied to the clock, and it is a grind when you are used to working on your own terms to be tied to the clock again, and to a space, that you physically have to be there. So having someone that's competent enough that you can rely on, I think, would be number 2 after location. Is having a backup person that's at least going to cover you. If you can't afford even part-time, at least going to cover you 2 days or 1 day or something like that. So you can take a break.
It's funny because I had a store at one point in time, and I didn't think about that on the front end. And I remember I met this guy and I fell madly in love with him. And suddenly I would come to the store and I would put notes on the door like, we're closed for the afternoon. And I started getting hate notes at the front door because we had an ad in a local paper. So people would say, I drove 25 miles to get your handmade stuff. And so I quickly realized that they didn't care that I had, thought I found the love of my life, and I better be there with their products. So that's a really good tip. At one point, Kristin, you had 2 stores, right? Tell us that story.
So we needed a larger manufacturing facility and found a great warehouse space that also was zoned for retail. And there were quite a few other makers in there, a bread maker, ice cream maker, also a brewer, bunch of other maker type businesses in there. And I thought, oh, this is cool. We can open a little 250, 300 square foot in the front. And then the rest will be warehouse and shipping. We had this huge roll up door. Thought it was just the best idea ever because we could be literally maximizing on 2 retail stores. That's where I found out about location.
Okay.
Our only customers were crossovers between the other businesses there.
Okay.
Carpinteria is a very small town. We were easily accessible off the freeway, but it was a destination to shop. It wasn't like you were going to shop a bunch of different things. There's not much there.
Right.
So we weren't doing much in sales, yet we were still tied to the clock. And my decision to close that place and consolidate to downtown to our new location came when I gave up. I was so sick of driving back and forth between both locations because I always had one good manager I could rely on, and I never had 2. And I was like, this is ridiculous. I can't be spending my time troubleshooting the fact that, the manager didn't show up or something like that happened.
Right.
And having to go over there because that's taking away from money-making stuff I can be doing in other ways. That's not how I should be spending my time, running around doing someone else's job. So I actually just decided I'm sick of this. I live downtown Santa Barbara. I love being downtown Santa Barbara. I want to have a location that's just in downtown Santa Barbara, but it was really tough to find because warehouse space down here is A, non-existent, and B, very expensive. If it is existent, you're paying what you'd be paying for, a regular space. So I was just like, telling my landlord about it one day, and I was like, oh. She said, there's this space that's been vacant. Like, no one wants it, but I think it would work for you.
And that's where you are now, right?
That's where I am now. So I found a space that actually has a warehouse in downtown Santa Barbara that I'm paying under $1 a square foot for the warehouse, which is like,
wow.
If anyone in Santa Barbara heard that, like if anyone ever listens to this podcast from Santa Barbara, they'll be like, what?
We won't tell anyone in Santa Barbara. So you still have everything together though, right? You have your production, you have your retail, you have your offices. Everything is still in one place, right?
Everything's in one place now. And that has been like my sanity check.
Yeah.
It's so much better. We're so much more effective. We're selling more. The business is growing more. People are happier job-wise. Because I don't think our employees liked going between two locations either. It was like, wait, where am I supposed to work today?
Right. Well, and then also you have to transport your products from where you make them to where you sell them. And that can be a nightmare, I would imagine, especially depending on how far away it is. And I mean, if you're driving a tiny little car, that's an issue too. So, wonderful though that you have come from wanting to be an entrepreneur but not knowing what kind, discovering as you're walking through your hometown the product that can be used inside everything that you make, to opening your online store, to opening a retail store and opening a few more and closing, and finally finding what works as a package for you that makes it easy for you to deliver to your customers, and they're happy and your staff is happy. I mean, it's like such a perfect business model.
It's pretty awesome. It's been a long road to get here. I've definitely learned a ton.
Yeah.
And learned from so many things that at the time I thought were mistakes. I was like, no, that's a huge learning experience for the direction business needs to take.
Yes.
And that's been a major guiding factor in how we've changed our business plan and changed our growth model and the people that we're working with and all of that. So,
well, you've got to also have an aroma bar. We haven't talked about that yet either. People can come in and they can take your bases and they can scent them the way they want and then rebottle them whatever size they want and buy them that way.
Yes. Yeah,
what fun. And then you have parties. Don't you have these wine parties? Didn't I see something about that somewhere?
So we do both private parties in the store and parties during the store hours. And we are just starting in the past year to do off-site parties too, where we go set up on location at some of the resorts and wineries. And we're actually doing one at a private beach house next weekend. We did one at a restaurant last weekend. So it's all these different avenues that the business has grown. Again, a whole another podcast in and of itself, but I am a firm believer in the maker business. You've got to have multiple revenue streams. You cannot be dependent on just your online store.
I absolutely agree.
Or something like that. So when I look at the fact that we've developed, events, retail store, online retail, private label, wholesale, yes, it's a lot to manage, but if one ever starts not producing, we have all these other revenue streams that we are still invested in and that are bringing money in and that we can now invest more time in if one of them doesn't make sense anymore.
Well, and you just listed 5, Kristin, and that's not an exhaustive list of what you're doing. But 5. And I agree with you so much. I don't think any business, whether you're a maker or not, one revenue stream is just not going to cut it. It's certainly what you want to start with, because you obviously don't want to stretch yourself too thin when you have no resources at all. But if you're not financed and you don't have much money, you got to start with one. But growing and creating different eggs to put in that basket, so to speak, is really important. But as we close out, let's just count those again and make sure we got them all, because this is really exciting. We have the retail store. You have events in the store. You have events outside the store. You have wholesale. You have private label. You have
And then the online retail. So yeah, I counted events as one. So that was six we just listed, but
yeah,
I'd say five main ones with counting events as one.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah,
But
so
yeah, it's awesome.
it's
It's just
been
incredible. But you know what? It's really too, events is really too, because doing an event in your store, everybody comes to you,
yeah,
right?
that's true.
You
It's
know,
a lot different.
doing it someplace else, you add 2 or 3 hours on the front and back end just to set up and clean up.
Yeah, you got it. And that's it, for probably anyone that's listening to this that's done a craft fair, you can relate to that, like
Yes.
moving
Oh
that
my
stuff.
goodness.
We did Earth Day this year, and I said to my staff after, never again.
Never
We have a
again.
retail store for a reason. I don't want to set up my retail store someplace else.
Right. Come to me. Come to me. Everyone come to me. Awesome. Well, listen, for those of us who are lucky enough to visit Santa Barbara or who are already there and don't know, which of course is a very small number of people, I'm sure, give us your address so we can come and visit your store and maybe tell us where your next party is later this summer, if you have any planned, so we can tell everybody how to get there.
Yeah, so we're at 21 West Ortega Street, which is right off of State Street, right in the main block of downtown Santa Barbara, next to Paseo Nuevo, which is the big outdoor mall. We're right across the street from Macy's. And we have the scent bar open from 10 to 6 every day, so you can come in anytime and do that. Or you can even just bring a small group in. You just have to meet a party minimum, but you can bring a small group in at any time, and we can do a party either private or during store hours where you can bring in whatever you want. And the one other thing I want to mention is that I am this summer actually starting a program where I'm going to be teaching how to open a retail store if you're a maker. So
Ooh.
I know.
Okay, so wait, I'm all excited now. And so let me just say, thegrapeseedcompany.com is the website. Will there be information there about it, or is there another, where should we go to get that?
We are going to have information up by the end of the month on cultivateyourniche.com.
Okay.
Which is our consulting site. We've been doing private consulting for the past few years, and I'm excited to finally be able to launch this. I had some personal issues that delayed it, unfortunately, but it's finally happening, which has been like a huge passion project of mine for a while. So we're going to be launching 3 courses before the end of 2015. But the first one is going to be about opening a retail store if you're a maker, and opening a workshop space that you can actually make your product in.
Oh,
So
that's
how to
so
do that.
incredible. So
And
awesome.
gave a little bit of an overview of that today, but a lot of it's a 4-week module or 4-week course, and each module happens per week, and each week we're going to hone in on some of the things that I talked about today.
Okay, so then we've got 7 eggs in the basket coming up here. So, and I'm sure there'll be more, right? No, this is wonderful, because what it shows is that entrepreneurship is never ever ending. I mean, you've had the Grapeseed Company for, I think you said, 11 years. You started with nothing. You had $2,500 and an idea. And now you have a store that has these six income streams. And now you're in a position where you can create as many new business models as you want, because you've worked for almost a quarter of your life to get one down that you can use as a platform to build so many more. And that just makes me so excited.
Yeah, I'm super excited about it too. We're finally at the point where, the Grapeseed staff is pretty much running Grapeseed on a day-to-day basis. And the beauty of it is I've brought on people that have different talents that I need to grow my maker business. And they are going to be available on like a one-to-one consult to do graphic design and things like that. Like, you're going to have access to our people to do these extra projects outside, which is really cool, because that's one of the hardest things, was finding someone affordable
To
and
do all
figuring
those
out who
things,
to
yeah.
to do those things.
Oh,
And I'm
wonderful.
excited too, because it just merges my teaching part. I still love to do that and
Yes.
miss that. So like, I'm
Yes.
excited to be teaching again. That's kind of what I want to do and where my passion is lying right now. So it's kind of the perfect mix of both.
Yes, and
So,
that theme has kind of run through from, we're full circle now, because this whole thing started when you began teaching classes. And I think I
yes.
said this in the middle as I was listening to you talk. You are a teacher. And so how perfect that you've been able to combine all these different aspects of your personality. And honestly, life, has, it hasn't been without its bumps. And so you've been able to be flexible and continue to build this business around your life as your life has evolved and changed.
Definitely.
And we could have a whole nother podcast on that. And I can't make you sit here all day, but I would love to. And I know our listeners would love to hear more. So let's just make sure the grapeseedcompany.com and cultivateyourniche.com. Make sure you check out both of those. You need some products, you need some learning. Go there and get all the information that you need to be successful and have a good time. And maybe Kristin will also teach you the backstroke. Not sure. Anyway, you never know what could happen when you're in Santa Barbara, right? Kristin, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a real pleasure.
Oh, thanks so much for having me on. It was great to talk with you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, I hope you enjoyed my interview with Kristin Fraser of the Grapeseed Company in Santa Barbara, California. And if you did, won't you show me some love on Twitter? Just go to indiebusinessnetwork.com/love, and you can let your friends know that you enjoy the Indie Business Podcast. I really want to make it useful for you. And if I'm successful at that, please let me know by sharing. And if I can improve the podcast, let me know that too. There's a contact link at indiebusinessnetwork.com/contact, and you can share whatever you'd like. I read every single message that comes through there. I'll see you on the next episode of the Indie Business Podcast. In the meantime, break all the rules, build your own corporate ladder, and create the life you love.